Welcome back to Work Comp Talk to Eric. And I am here with Bilal Kassem, the president of Pacific Workers and the real host of Work Comp Talk. I'm no longer the host. I'm filling in for Carmen Ramirez, who is on vacation. How are you, Bilal?
Doing well. Doing
Good.
well.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't done these in years. Carmen and I did them, and then you took over when I left, and it's just kind of nice to be back. I like doing podcasts and stuff. Today we got a really crazy topic coming off the heels of the first presidential debate, and it's Biden or Trump. Who is better for workers' comp? So, there's been the last major overhaul of workers' comp in California was done during the Arnold Schwarzenegger days. Isn't that right?
Yeah, the last major change we had was in 2013. Well, it started before then. That we had a major change in 2004, 2005. Then we had a major change in 2013, and that was pretty much it. And we haven't had really any major overhaul since then.
So it wasn't Arnold. It was after that?
Yeah. The last major one was, I think Jerry Brown was still governor of California at the time, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was elected in 2010 and then served through 2014.
Mm-hmm. So when we talk about the Biden, Trump, we're not really talking. Our firm doesn't really represent federal workers in their workers' comp cases. I think we've talked about it, but we've talked about it a lot in the past. But whether it's Biden or Trump, it's not really going to affect what happens in California workers' comp. Is that right?
Yeah, for the most part. I think California has its own state system, just like every other state does.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one area that could potentially impact workers' comp is depending on how and if federal Medicare is expanded. That's one potential avenue that could alter workers' comp in California to some extent, but that's only one piece of it.
Well, as far as I know, Bernie Sanders isn't on the ticket anymore.
Yeah, I highly doubt they're going to reform Medicare and everyone will have federally mandated health insurance provided by the federal government. I sincerely doubt that'll happen. California, we have our equivalent, Medi-Cal, which certainly plays a part in workers' comp, but there's no lost wage replacement. There's no compensation for disability. We have state disability at a state level, but it's not the same thing. And so until they could figure that out, I don't see how any president would impact workers' comp in California.
Yeah, it's some places are some people on both sides of the aisle are better for workers' rights than the other. I think it's gotten very mixed up over the last 5-6 years as to who's doing what, so to speak. I know that there has been a couple of things out of the Biden administration with regards to non-competes, things like that aren't really about workers' rights in terms of injuries and working conditions in the same way. That's sort of a mental working condition more than it is physical working condition when you're talking about the NDAs. And they've tried to step in somewhat on the federal level with regards to gig workers and with regards to independent contractors and misclassification. But California still has a stronger laws with regards to who's independent contractors and who's not independent contractors than the feds do. I believe that's correct.
Of course. And look at just a reflection of, wage and hour laws. Like, what's minimum wage for the federal government right now? Like $7.50 an hour or something like that. In
I think it's
California,
$7.25.
just passed a law for some, I think it's restaurant workers now, or it's $20
Fast
minimum
food
wage, something like
workers, it's
that. So,
$20 minimum
you're
wage.
talking about almost triple the minimum wage federally, at the state level. And so I think if that's any indication of where California stands as opposed to where the government stands, in terms of weighing in on workers' rights, it's very little.
Yeah. I think that's right. And it's interesting because you see a lot of the, blame on to the government, to California government on these wage issues, on this that all these companies are going out of business because of it. And it's interesting because I happen to notice they were talking about a In-N-Out that had closed. In-N-Out has actually paid more. Their minimum for their own company has been more than $20 an hour for a long time. They've been paying.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it has a lot to do with, even with workers' comp issues, is companies that pay well generally see less workers' comp claims, where there's actual less lawsuits. For people who own businesses out there, learn to pay more, and you'll probably see a lower insurance bill. Our bill has been, pretty low over the years, comparatively to a lot of different companies, because of that. I think there's a lot to it and it's unfortunate that they throw out these bills to, quote, pay more type of thing. I think that this has impacted a lot. Politics does play a huge role. These are not. This is not like personal injury, that it's all developed by courts. The law, workers' comp is completely developed by the legislature. So who is in office and who are the people there, it impacts it greatly.
Yeah. I think we get a handful of, court-made law, but it's really, navigating the minutia of what's been legislated out. And, even now the legislature in California has tried to move several bills forward and just ultimately they don't go anywhere, So I really don't see any presidency or even any federal level legislature taking any action of any kind that would make any movement in workers' comp. Although it's funny, when these people are running for election, half the time it's, cops and firefighters standing behind all of them at the federal level, but they can't do anything to
no,
trickle down that.
I worked in politics when I was young. I ran a campaign for somebody in Arizona growing up, and before I went off to law school. And I remember, we used to say that whoever the firefighters are standing behind, they're generally going to win because they have a really amazing get out the vote and amazing track record of helping. But that's changed. I think it's changed a lot. I think that the face of the unions have changed a lot. I'm supporting Zach Unger for city council in Oakland. I think Zach's a great guy, and he really understands a lot. He was head of the union in Oakland for the firefighters. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's really a lot of this stuff, and the face of a lot of this stuff has changed drastically. And it's interesting because you say that the firefighters and the cops, support on a federal level, but on a state level, it's the same. But there's not a lot of bills that they can get through. I mean, it's still jammed. It's still, deadlocked. I know that they got through the bill, which was surprising to me, in 2013 about the athletes, that took away a lot of workers' comp rights for the athletes, and that came out from somebody in the farm districts. I was shocked at who introduced that bill, but it happened, and they passed it, right? So, California is probably one of the strongest workers' rights states out there, but stuff still happens. They still take away workers' rights.
Well, it may be the strongest, but it seems like insurance companies have the bigger voice still.
When you got billions and billions of dollars behind you, it happens.
Yeah. That legislation you're talking about seemingly passed overnight, whereas Injured workers in California haven't got a raise in permanent disability rates since, well, technically even 2012 was when the laws took effect. So,
I think it's
you're
earlier
talking
than that,
about
isn't
going
it?
on. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about going on a decade now of the same permanent disability rates, despite record high inflation, cost of living, wages, everything spiraling up out of control. And, people are still getting the same pittance they got back in 2013, which
Yeah.
even
What
then
is the
wasn't
average
great.
weekly? What is the amount that they get on temporary disability? Is like $250 dollars a week or something?
Temporary disability has gone up every year. So temporary disability has been keeping up with inflation, which is great. But permanent disability, which is
Sorry.
the award you get at the end of the day when a doctor says you're messed up and you're going to have lifelong physical limitations that are going to impact your ability to provide for yourself and your family, you get $290 a week max. Doesn't matter if you're earning $500,000 a year, $300,000, $70,000. Max you get is $290 a week. So you have a lot of people who are kicked out of the workforce because of their injuries. They can't go back to work, and they're told they get, $290 a week for like 15 weeks, and that's it. Too bad, so sad. So
It's not
it's
just that, but
surprising to me that
they took away basically, the ability to retrain, right? Go to school, get it paid for, retrain in a good job. Now you get what? A computer and a couple of classes,
yeah, and vocational
and
retraining
basically
benefits
it.
used to be way more substantial. Back in the day too, there used to be no caps on temporary disability. So they
Mhm.
used to say, look, if it takes you 2 months to get better or 10 years to get better, we will continue to pay you lost wages until you are at a point where you have medically plateaued and you are as good as you're going to get. Now they're like, hey, you get maximum of 2 years within 5 years from your date of injury, and that's it. It doesn't matter how messed up you are, how many surgeries you still need. Just that's it. Go figure your life out on your own. That's it. So it's
104
really sad to
weeks.
see the state of affairs. Huh?
It's 104 weeks, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
At a max rate, 66% of your average weekly wage.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't have to pay taxes on it. That's it. That's your one advantage. No taxes.
Yep.
But 66% of your average weekly wage for 104 weeks, and that's it. And so, this system, uh, we may be a Democratic run state, but it has not gone in and really done much to change the state of our workers' comp. And we may be one of the best states out there.
Yeah.
And it is
I
a
think
sad state of affairs, no pun intended. So it's no wonder that so many, it's no wonder we've had 10,000 clients over the last 10 years dealing with this.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean,
Because it's not set up well.
no. And, you're working trying to get, I feel like sometimes for our clients, we're fighting for scraps,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's not a lot of change on the horizon. At least it seems that way. There's been some talk of trying to get temporary disability expanded when treatment's denied, and there's a successful appeal to get the treatment authorized. There's talks of getting rid of medical provider networks based on insurance company, just a statewide program where if you're a doctor in that network, you're good to go. It doesn't matter who the insurance company is. But all these things, they never make it. I think they get butchered and chopped down far before there's ever even a chance for them to get out of the legislature.
It's a hard road, so when we throw out the question, Biden or Trump, who's better for workers' comp, it's not the question to ask. It is who's better for workers' comp in the state of California. I think the federal workers' comp system is so bad we don't even want to jump into it, to represent people, and that's really unfortunate. I feel very bad for the federal workers out there, but the state workers, we got enough troubles. But this is something, an election year. You got to pay attention to what's happening, and workers' rights are still important. The business of America is workers. It always has been. It always will be. It's the beauty. It's the dream of America, is to have a good job, is to have a good middle class job that you can do well, and your kids can do better than you did. You can send them to school, etc. And unless we protect that, it doesn't foster the dream. So, Bilal, thanks for hosting me on this podcast. We'll keep doing some more of these. It's been fun jumping in and doing a few of these podcasts with you again. It's been a number of years, but again, congrats on 10 years, 10,000 clients. And for those out there, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. We've got the Ask Bilal series that we put up onto YouTube and then spread around. If you have a question, please reach out to us, and we will get that answered. So Bilal puts those out a couple of times a week, I believe, and we're backed up because Carmen, your co-host, is actually out on vacation. So that's why we're jumping in, getting a few of these done, and pretty great. Thanks very much.